Welcome back, vlog. Another day in the cardiac OR. We are getting pretty close to the end here. Also, a lot of you guys have been asking for updates on my residence salary now that I'm starting my third year of residency. And I do have some updates, which I will tell you guys in a little bit, but for now, I need to get to the OR and start setting up for my case. All right, so some of you guys have been asking for updates regarding my salary as a resident now that I am a third year. And in order to get into the updates about my salary, I actually have to update you guys on what's been going on with the negotiations that my union has been having, because unfortunately, it's all coming down to that. But first, let's talk about resident unions.
Okay, so to explain how resident unions even work today, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Like literally all the way back to when we started being called residents in the first place. So welcome back to another story time with Sean. Back in 1889, a doctor named William Osler built the first modern residency. And the deal was, you literally lived at the hospital. That was the whole job. You resided there for your patients 24/7. And there were no rules on this. None at all. All the way into the 1980s, there was no law in America capping how long a resident could work. 36-hour shifts were normal. In surgery, 100-hour weeks were just average. And what's crazy is that all the way back in 1971, we already had studies showing that exhausted interns made more mistakes. We knew, and still nothing changed. That was until 1984. There was an 18-year-old named Libby Zion that came into a New York hospital with a fever. The intern treating her had been awake for 18 straight hours, and unfortunately there was a drug interaction that got missed, and the patient dies. And her dad happened to be a famous journalist and former prosecutor, so he does not let this go. He goes public and makes a lot of noise about this. That case lights a fire. New York starts to panic, and in 1889 became the first state ever to cap resident work hours. But only in New York did this happen. No one else followed. So it took until 2003, after a huge national report on medical errors for the people who accredit every residency, to finally make a rule for the whole country. That's right, the 80-hour week. 1 day off in 7, 10 hours off between shifts. All these work hour constraints that we have now are barely 20 years old. Now that's just the rules side, but residents banding together to fight for themselves, that's a totally separate story, and honestly, it's even older. In 1934, also in New York, residents formed the first house staff group over pay and conditions. In 1957, they built the first real resident union, the Committee of Interns and Residents. And in 1999, the big domino effect. The government rules that residents are actually employees, not just students. This means that legally, residents everywhere can finally organize. And did it work? Honestly, yeah. When researchers pulled out the data, the work hour limits actually resulted in an 11% drop in patient deaths. Turns out when the person keeping you alive has slept, you're a lot safer. Shocking, I know. And for some reason, 24-hour shifts still exist today. Anyway, this brings us to right now. For decades, barely 10% of residents were part of a union. Now it's exploding, and there's actually about 31,000 of us in CIR. And when you actually ask people why, it's actually not just about the money. 85% say it's about the working conditions. Most of us just want a real voice. So when I say that my union is still negotiating, that is a fight that has been going on for 90 years. Someone literally had to die for an 80-hour work week to even exist. People I'll never meet organized for decades so that I get a seat at the table. Anyway, now that you guys know a little bit more about the history of resident unions, let's get back to the vlog.
Alright guys, so we spent some time in this vlog talking about how resident unions were created to protect residents from poor labor conditions. Now, although I feel protected in that sense, I also want to make sure that I feel protected when I'm going online. And it's not just me who needs protecting, but all of you guys do as well. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about this week's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, or a virtual private network. Basically, when I'm connected, it routes my internet through their servers, so my connection stays private and my location isn't just sitting out there for anyone to grab. And the reason that I use it is because as a resident, I'm constantly on internet that I do not own. That includes the hospitals, coffee shops, airports, or sometimes the random neighbors when mine goes down. I'm kidding. The big thing is that I'd rather my stuff just not be an open book whenever I'm using public networks. And that's really all it is. It's not anything deeper or more complicated. It just makes me feel a little bit more secure about my own privacy. The other thing I like about Surfshark is that it runs on every one of my devices at once. That includes my phone, my laptop, my iPad. One account covers all of it, so I'm not having to pick which device gets protected. Again, I highly recommend you guys protect yourselves when you're using public online networks, especially in today's world where your data can be used against you. That peace of mind goes a long way. If you guys want to try it, go to surfshark.com/Sean Anderson. So if extra security sounds good to you, make sure to go check out Surfshark. I'll have the link somewhere here on the screen, or you can click it down in the description box below. If you use my code Sean Anderson at checkout, you'll actually get an extra 4 months on top of your plan. Again, in today's world, security and privacy is everything. Make sure to protect yourselves. Make sure to check out Surfshark. I highly recommend them. And thank you so much again to Surfshark for sponsoring this week's video. All right, guys. So this vlog, we've talked a lot about the history of resident unions and how important it is to protect residents everywhere. And I told you guys at the beginning of this vlog that I would give you guys updates on what's going on with my resident union. And so let's just get into it, because this has been like a year-long thing that's been going on, and we are finally at the tail end of it, so a lot is kind of happening right now. First, I just want to clarify with you guys the players in my resident union. So first, we have the CIR, or the Committee of Interns and Residents. This is residents and fellows, so all of us. Then you have the other side, which is the actual UC system, or UCOP, which is the UC Office of the President. This is the system-wise administration, essentially our employer. Now, the UC program that I train at is just one institution under the UCOP, or the UC system, and we're all represented by CIR. Now, for the past year, residents across all of the University of California systems have been negotiating for a new contract. So CIR is negotiating on behalf of over like 6,500 of us. And the whole bargaining process is a lot slower than you'd think. One side puts down a proposal, the other side counters it, and then you just keep going back and forth doing that, and it goes on for like ever. So that started last August, and a lot of these proposals were actually trying to take away things that we have as residents, like pay stipends, fertility benefits, healthcare, which essentially reverses what prior debates and proposals have gotten us. So essentially, UCOP just kept pushing back on every single proposal that our union was coming up with, to the point where earlier this year, residents kind of started getting really mad about it. So a lot of us residents started showing up, and this past June, there were a lot of unity breaks. Basically, we were having rallies and stuff across all the different UC campuses. And then we started to see a lot more movement than we had seen all year, which mattered a lot because our current contract expired this past July 1st. Or basically the last contract was actually frozen, so nothing was moving. However, on July 17th, our union reached what's called a tentative agreement. Basically, our union and UCOP actually shook hands on some terms. And these terms actually have a lot of good things. For example, raises over the next 4 years, also keeping fertility coverage, no new insurance premiums, some new resident cash funds, which is really nice, and also better protections around our schedule changes, which all sounds really good on paper, but a tentative agreement is not a finalized deal. What's going to happen this next week is that union members get to actually vote on the terms that have been proposed. So this whole year of sessions, rallies, residents going back and forth with administration, all comes down to the vote that's happening this upcoming week. Now again, the tentative agreement actually looks pretty good, and at least looks like it will protect us for the next 4 years and give us raises that will help keep up with inflation, which is really awesome. So my feeling is I think enough members are going to definitely vote for it to pass, and then we'll have a contract for the next 4 years. And in 4 years from now, the union will negotiate for whatever they feel like needs to be negotiated for when that time comes. But at that point, I will be done with residency. But even though I'll be done, obviously I will always hope for resident conditions to get better. But I really want to use this vlog to really show you guys how much effort goes into resident negotiations and really protecting us. And as you guys saw in the story time, these are kind of novel things. This hasn't been going on for a very long time. Now, I did get a little bit of a raise going from being a PGY2 to PGY3, but if everything passes, then I should also be getting a 5% raise. So Once the voting and everything is done, which again I think will go favorably for residents, I will finally post my updated salary video, which I'm very excited about. Transparency about finances has always been very important to me, and a lot of you guys came to this channel because of those videos, and I've definitely seen a trend in more residents and doctors talking about finances. I feel like since I started making this content, which is really, really cool. So we're gonna keep it up. Anyway, wish us luck on the voting. Make sure to always support residents near you. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.